Good, good afternoon. My name is Avi, and today I'm going to be talking about the second part of Noah's Ark and how the science explains the events told in the Bible. This is, as I said, the second part. So you should probably go and watch the first part before this one because otherwise you probably won't understand where we're coming from. So let's go. The first thing I want to talk about are catastrophic tectonic plates. A new study has been made on over 1,800 new boreholes from 4 different continents. Boreholes are basically holes that are made that cut deep into the Earth's um, layers, into the different layers of the Earth, and that study them and the material found in them to tell us more about our past and tell us more about the history of the world and how those layers form, because the things found in this boreholes can tell us a lot about how life was and how life existed and how life happened through those places, because a lot of old and fossils and a lot of different things are preserved in those layers of the earth. This study mapped the boreholes and demonstrated something very interesting, which is that 6 different mega sequences are repeated through through at least the 4 continents of the globe, and that they're found all across the globe, which is very interesting because um, for something like that to happen, there would have to be an event that caused this, that caused all those layers to somehow be the same in all across the world. So a lot of those layers share limestone and um, angel shell and sandstone through them, and a bunch of other stuff. As you can see in the picture, there are the different layers and the 6 different layers and what each one of them is. And it's very interesting that there are a lot of places in Earth have the 6 specific layers, and a lot of them have them repeated across the world. Um, this would be how the later on I'll get you on to explain how the flood caused this layers to get there, and at least I'll try my best. And yeah, we'll get there. So, how does this connect to the flood? As I said, there are sedimentary layers all across the world. That's what we stand on, and that form the or ground or the ground we stand on. And geologists tried to understand through geology, obviously, and through science how these layers got there and how they formed, and also how the Pangea, if you're not um, if you do not know about the theory, it's considered a theory because there is no specific scientific proof, but it is basically something that is agreed upon, usually by scientists. But the Pangea is the idea as that you've seen the image that once there was a giant continent that was just one single continent, and that eventually, because of something that happened, this continent broke up into multiple different parts. As Christians, a lot of Christian scientists believe that the flood was that what separated the Pangea and caused the separation of these continents. And that's what I personally believe too, that the flood caused the separation of the continents, and we'll get there how that happened. But scientists do not have an exact explanation yet to how this happened and how this what occurred to cause this. But okay, here we are in the scientific explanation of the flood. I'll try my best to get through this. I'm obviously not a scientist or someone who knows everything, so I will definitely just try to explain in my own terms, and please bear with me. So, as we all know the beginning of what led to the flood. God was very upset with humanity, as He said in Genesis. Sorry, we'll get there. As He said, to Noah, he was sad about their sins and that humans became very evil and he could not find good in humanity anymore except in Noah's family. We all know that story, and what led to that, it's a very famous story. If you don't know the details, you should probably read because it's a very interesting story from the Bible. But okay, in Genesis 6:3, God said that humans should not live forever and that he would not be with them forever, and that humans should live the most 120 years. A lot of people back then lived much more than that. Noah himself lived up to I don't even know how much, but he was 600 years old when the flood happened, and a lot of people lived a lot of very long periods of time before God set this period. It is also believed by a bunch of Christian philosophers that this was when God set this age for humans. This was also the countdown for the flood. He was basically saying that in 120 years he would destroy humanity. And basically 120 years later he would do that. So by then, um, Noah was 500 and no, he'll be 580, I think, because he was 600 when the flood happened. So he'll be 580 when God first talked to him. I don't know if it's talked about, the Bible talks about the specific age, his specific age when God first talked about him. I'll look that up later and try to put it somewhere. But God declared that he would destroy humanity for their sins. And so 120 years later, when Noah was 600, he spent like 100 years building the ark. It took a lot of time, and because of that, people did not believe him because he kept talking about this flood that would happen, but that just never got there. And for 100 years, even if they lived a lot of time, that's a long period of time. That's multiple generations that are coming and some that are going. And before then, that is something that a lot of people know. But before then, it had never rained on the earth because the earth had a six-river system that fueled all the earth, and so there was no need for rain because like as I said, the earth was a Pangea, and people had access to rain or to water through the entire mega continent, so they did not need rain to help their valleys and help whatever they needed. But then the flood happened, and in the first day of the flood, giant rifts broke from the bottom of the ocean. If you not know what a rift is, you can look that up later. But there are giant rifts that are basically rips that cut in the bottom of the ocean, and they exist today, and we know about them, and they um, are very big and profound. But when that happened back then, that was the first layer that was already connected to the magma of the planet. And so magma spilled out and burned a lot of water, causing it to turn into steam and float to the skies. And that steam turned into rain, into massive, massive rain, because you had giant rifts all across the bottom of the ocean, all across the world, ripping, letting magma go and explode, causing it to turn into the water to turn into steam and to flow to the like large amounts of water to flow to the skies, which caused the gigantic rain that we know. This also caused a lot of earthquakes and tsunamis um of tsunamis filled with mud to happen. And also, when the rifts happened, they also caused a lot of phosphite to be released into the water, which caused the water to be extremely toxic and dangerous. Um, the flood, as we know, happened for 370 days, but the process of the flood slowly happened. We know this because there are, as we said, layers, and those layers, they show that there were different parts of the tsunamis hitting each part of the earth, which is what caused the inclinations and mountains and um, different formations of layers that we know today and we can see today, because there were different tsunamis going all the time. Every few hours, every few days, there was a tsunami hitting different areas and causing that inclination of land to happen. Um, I'm trying to look for the specific formation. Wait. So around day 40, the bottom of the ocean started to reform, and that's when the Pangea started to break. And I'll get to the theories. There's theories that this lasted actually years and not days, and that the layers years. But the Bible is very specific with the time and this specifically. So we believe in the Bible, so we have to say it's days. But we'll get to the theories later. But around day 40, this happened very quickly, and there's evidence that the formation of these layers were very, very quick and happened in a period of a few days. And so the ocean started to push the continents and separate them, and different rifts started to reopen, causing different separations that are the rifts you see today. and reforming the ocean and reforming the world as we know it today. Also, after this, a lot of the sea life and the sea shores and wait the word. Uh, okay, and a lot of marine life were pushed into on the top of the world because those tsunamis were coming from the bottom up. So they were pushing sea life in on top of this continent. And today we can find at the bottom in the first three layers of the six mega layers that I talked today. Wait, let me go. Like this first three layers, we can find sea life and marine life, which proves that they had to come from this floods came from the bottom up. And then finally, there's also a lot of evidence that in the first three layers of extreme magnetic and volcanic activity, which was happening at the bottom of the ocean and across the world because of what was happening. And that's basically, I know it's very confusing and it's a lot of stuff, but that's basically the scientific explanation of the ocean. I might redo this later and get more in depth with it. But okay, let's get to the theories. Okay, so there's three theories about the flood, and that the flood actually lasted for years, much more, not just 365 days, but years, not 370 days, but years. And I personally don't believe in that because the Bible is very specific with the dates and Noah's age and all of that. So I personally believe it was just 370 days. But there is evidence that can support the theory that it was actually years. There's also belief that the flood was when dinosaurs were actually extinct because we have dinosaurs today like alligators and other small dinosaurs because they could be supported in the ark, and God did not actually want giant dinosaurs like T-Rex and other species like that to be transported in Noah's ark. Wouldn't fit, so that would probably be a mess. So that's probably there's evidence that shows that this is when they died, and I'll try to get this is my topic for next week, dinosaurs and how they fit in with the Bible. So I'll try to talk about this theory and talk about dinosaurs and how they fit in because that's one of my biggest questions as a Christian. And the final theory is that the flood only took part in a small part of the world. And again, I don't personally believe in that theory because, as I said, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that the flood affected the entire planet. But it could make sense on the way that if there was a mega continent before the flood, then it only reached that mega continent in that small part of the earth, and everything else was water. So that could make sense. But besides that, I don't personally believe in this theory because we know that it affected the entire world. But that's basically it for this lesson. Thank you for watching, and come back next week.